Good day. In 1853, an American general, no, a commodore, because he was a head of a naval fleet, led some ships to the Bay of Japan. He went to Japan to try and discuss with them. He put up a display, shot some cannons into the Bay of Japan, and he impressed the Japanese a lot. Because for over 200 years, the Japanese had closed their country up to trade. They weren't engaging with trade with any country. But Commodore Perry went there to help facilitate the process by which trade could start between Japan and America. It got to the signing of a treaty called the Treaty of Kanagawa, and that treaty opened up Japan. That was after several years of Japan being isolated. That was a clear example of what is called gunboat diplomacy, where one country uses the power of its military might and strength to try and convince the other party that it is in their best interest to negotiate. In 1996, America has become very preeminent in using gunboat diplomacy. The British used it, the French used it, the European powers used it, but America particularly is known to use it quite a lot because America is the global leader in maritime affairs. They've been for a long while now. So even in 1996, Bill Clinton used it. He sent two carrier groups to the Sea of Japan. He sent them through the Taiwan Strait to go and help ease tension when China was having problems with the Taiwanese. And those two carrier groups, aircraft carrier groups that passed through the Strait of Taiwan, helped to convince the Chinese that they should de-escalate. President Trump, the new president in America, has tried to use gunboat diplomacy, but in line with the waning power of that particular form of diplomacy, we are beginning to see that it's not as effective as it used to be. He marshaled out an aircraft carrier group against the Houthis, but the Houthis fought back resolutely, and that Carl Vincent carrier group had to scuttle out of the Red Sea so that the harm will not come their way. In fact, they lost some aircraft in that engagement. In the 12-day war between Israel and Iran, there was another attempt to marshal quite a force against the Iranians. They used those ships to interdict Iranian missiles that were going on to Israel, but it really did not succeed so much. It didn't succeed, and it didn't help the Israelis too much, and it wasn't a good projection of American power. Now, America is moving again towards a new reality in trying to force its way. This time, the excuse here is that it is going after narco terrorists, people who are shipping vast amount of fentanyl and cocaine to America from Venezuela. President Trump has ordered 3 ships, destroyers, to be sent to the Venezuelan coast, including also a submarine, in an attempt to stop the flow of drugs, as he says, coming to America. That's another form of trying to force an issue or force a diplomatic outcome, or in this case here now, and a different kind of outcome using gunboat diplomacy. Good day, and welcome to my channel, Ebima Mungo's Perspective on Global Affairs. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any views regarding the opinions that I express in this video, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. President Trump has sent a couple of ships, 3 of them, to Venezuela, and these ships are now going to be resident around the Venezuelan coast. They are destroyers, and they will be joining another group of ships that are already patrolling that neighborhood. USS Dunham, USS Samson, and then USS Gravely were recently sent to the Venezuelan coast. This is coming at a time when the president considers the American government has put up a reward of $50 million against the the president of Venezuela, Maduro. They believe that Maduro is leading this group of terrorists, narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy to use and carry machine guns. President Trump accuses the Venezuelan state of facilitating or being involved in the great in drug crisis that America is facing. There are over 100,000 deaths from drug cases in America every year. It's a big crisis in America, and President Trump holds the president of Venezuela accountable. In fact, this is what his secretary is press secretary had to say on the matter. She was giving an interview and she was asked a question, and this is what she said on the matter.
What I will say with respect to Venezuela, President Trump has been very clear and consistent. He's prepared to use every element of American power to stop drugs from flooding into our country and to bring those responsible to justice. The Maduro regime is not the legitimate government of Venezuela. It is a narco-terror cartel. And Maduro, it is the view of this administration, is not a legitimate president. He is a fugitive head of this cartel who has been indicted in the United States for trafficking drugs into the country. And with that, I will leave you all.
So President Maduro has been accused of being the head of a terrorist organization that is leading to the flooding of America with drugs. That is a big one. And this is an attempt to subject him. There's been a long attempt to unseat President Maduro. Trump had a hand in the first time, a very active hand in his first tenure when he supported the Speaker of the House to challenge President Maduro. President Maduro has been in Trump's target for a while, and now this is gunboat diplomacy. We really don't know how far it will go. The fact that it may not achieve the outcomes they want, if they're going to keep them there, they didn't achieve it in Iran, they didn't achieve it with the Houthis, and it is left to conjecture if America will be able to achieve it with the Venezuelans, especially as Maduro has said, he is mobilizing a 4.5 million militias to fight in the sea, in the land, and in the air to protect the country. He has energized his people against the actions of America. It is left to history to show us what will happen. But one reality that is going on, and where the American and European powers seem to have waned, is with the war that is going on in Ukraine. There, we see a situation where an attempt by the Europeans to have their way with the Russians isn't going as a plan. The meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky left one outcome, because the topics discussed there was, one, it was discussed all that Ukraine may have to let go of some of their territories, but the Ukrainians said no. And the Ukrainians requested ceasefire. Trump said that didn't happen. So they now latched on one last topic, which is what they wanted, and that was that President Trump listened to the Europeans and they got security guarantees, or they came to the agreement that there will be security guarantees for Ukraine. Security guarantees for Ukraine now has different interpretation. As regards to the Europeans, they believe that security guarantees for Ukraine should mean like a Nato Article 5 kind of thing, where they will have boots on ground in Ukraine, and they would be able to say, protect Ukraine and prevent the attack of Ukraine again by Russia. This is what they are proposing, and this is what they have said. But today we got another tweet from Medvedev. Medvedev has turned himself to be the one Russian president, former president or Russian official who takes a very strong stand against whatever the Europeans are doing. And in his tweet here, he said the brainless Gallic roasters can't let go of the idea of sending troops to Ukraine. It's been explicitly stated no NATO troops as peacekeepers. Russia won't accept such a security guarantee, but the horse pathetic bird continues to crow to prove it's king of the coup. Those days when the Europeans could impose their will through military strength seems to be over, especially as 3 years of war and over $350 million or billion dollars of support in the form of military hardware to Ukraine has not deterred the Russians. The Russians have been slow, but they've been very methodical in their disaggregation of the Ukrainian military. They have won territories, they're holding on to those territories. And these days, we hear a new refrain now. French president the other day and some other generals are saying that after 3 years of war, it's only 1% of Ukraine pre-2022 that Russia has won. But here's the thing, Russia now owns those places. They have incorporated those 5 oblasts into Russia, including Ukraine. And now there's an effort at peace. General Kellogg, a good friend and a good supporter of the Ukrainian cause, has come up to say that whoever is criticizing President Trump for his peace efforts is not a friend of the United States. He used much more forceful language, and when he said this, he was very particular as to those people who are criticizing Trump's effort in the way he's going about it. Trump is going about this in his own manner because we know that Trump isn't going to spend money again for the Ukrainians. That's not going to happen. And we also know that he is trying to find a way to de-escalate. There's a lot of distance between where the Europeans and the Ukrainians on one side and Russians are, and he's trying to find a common ground. In engaging with Putin, Trump has become someone who critics and supporters of Ukraine feel has sold the cause and sold out, but it's not going to happen. Trump is not going to support the Ukrainians. I would say that. I'm not saying that because I know Trump. I'm saying that because I know human beings. He will not do it. They tried. 6 of them or 7 of them came to try and convince him. The least they could do, the best they got out of that is that he didn't show a nasty face to Zelensky when Zelensky came. But Zelensky too had a big hand in that because Zelensky changed his attitude. He changes his sense of entitlement that he always used to have. He behaved much more calmly and much more professionally and diplomatically. He lathered up Trump with praises. It was a much different Zelensky than the one that came very entitled in February of this year and tried to and had that bust up with President Trump in the Oval Office. This was a different Zelensky, and he may have been coached. In fact, the newspaper said that Keir Starmer, the British Prime Minister, did coach him, told him what to wear so that he can have better engagement and show better optics to Trump. Anyway, the whole talk about the Europeans wanting to have their way. Putin particularly has said this is not going to happen. But Macron has been forceful. Macron has been going on in interviews. He has taken it one step further. Macron, we should say, is angry. There's been a lot of French casualties in the Ukrainian war front because the French somehow are the ones who have taken this thing of boots on the ground one step further. Reports have it that they have sent quite a number of people in their foreign legion so that they can say that they are not part of it. And the Russians have attacked them in many cities across Ukraine. The French are really angry. Macron is not happy, and Macron has taken up the criticisms of the Russians. Another person who is saying that the Russians can't be the ones to tell the Europeans about security guarantees turns out to be a new kid on the block, a new member of NATO who is eager to show us that NATO can do much more than they already. He says this is what stopped the prime minister, the president of Finland had to say.
Doesn't decide on that. It's as simple as that. So what we have agreed on is to work on European and American security guarantees, essentially, which will be secure from the European perspective, coordinated with the Americans. It's us who decide what kind of security guarantees we put up for Ukraine, not the Russians. So in that sense, it's not a question for us. If you take the relative landmass.
So he says that it's not the Russians who can decide on security guarantees for Ukraine. What he's saying, in essence, is that the Russians have no vote in it. The Russians have told them collectively over the past 3 years, maybe he's new, he hasn't spent money. If he had been spending money on this war, he would have known that they have failed. He's new to NATO. They just joined NATO. They had several years of neutrality because they had a big and bitter experience with the Soviet Union. But now they have neutrality, and they gave up that neutrality to go into NATO. And their entry into NATO was very recent, so they've not sent people, they've not sent money the way some other countries. If not, you would have found out that the Russians have told them clearly that you do not have that kind of influence. NATO, they have pushed back against NATO. They've destroyed NATO materials, military materials in Russia, and they have won territories, even despite the strong diplomatic, political, and military support that Ukraine has got from the Europeans and from NATO. The Russians have been decisive. They've been methodical because many people wonder what kind of strategies. When people are taught, probably they would have rolled up into the whole of Ukraine. And because they didn't take much more than they wanted out of Ukraine, and they're finding it hard, and they're having a very big hard time getting the remaining cities of Donetsk in the Donbass there. It's giving cause to the politicians to say that the Russians have not succeeded in several years of trying to break Ukraine. But the truth is they've already broken Ukraine. They've shattered the demographic structure of Ukraine. Ukraine has lost well over 10 million people. They've shattered the democracy in Ukraine. Ukraine is now an autocracy ruled by somebody pretending to be president of Ukraine, hiding behind martial law, and running in a very despotic country. No rules, no laws of journalism have been quashed. It's a martial state now. It's a state that is as despotic as you can find anywhere in the world. And it is that is one of the sticking points of the engagement with Russia, because President Putin keeps saying that Zelensky is illegitimate. His term ran out in May of 2024. And even though they are now trying to put a meeting with President Trump and President Zelensky and President Putin says that such a meeting will only take place when they are ready to sign a peace agreement. They have pushed back against the possibility of a Putin-Zelensky meeting. Already, location for the meeting is being discussed, and the Polish prime minister today said that he doesn't believe that Hungary should be the place for that meeting. Meanwhile, the Russians have said they are not amenable to that meeting. They're not amenable to a one-on-one bilateral between President Putin and President Zelensky. Putin has said clearly that such a meeting should be at the ending stage when they're about to sign a treaty. Today, Lavrov, the foreign minister of Russia, did say that they would have to scale up the technical committees, the quality of diplomats that are engaging in the technical committees that are discussing the details of any kind of peace agreement that we'll have with Ukraine. Already they've had 3 rounds of meetings in Istanbul. So what he may mean is that the diplomatic or the people who may constitute the meetings for going forward for peace arrangements may have higher caliber in the Politburo or in the Senate or in the political class of both countries. That's what he hinted. He didn't say what category of diplomats or what category of political officers would be taking up the next step in this his proposal. So we have this situation where the Europeans just can't impose their will. They used to be able to impose their will on countries like Russia. They did that for a long time, especially as the Russians were so keen on being a member of the West. They were so keen on being in G7 that was expanded into G8. They were part of the G20. They were just doing everything to be part of the West world, but they were not particularly welcome. So now they've turned east. And not just that they've turned east, they've also withstood the barrage of anger of the West, and they've come off strong. And no amount of military intimidation is making them change their mind. The West too are very worried because they know the power of Russia as regards to its large stock of, one, missiles, and then two, nuclear warheads. This is not a country to be trifled with, and this is not a country to be pushed around, and this is certainly not a country that will move and quake and be intimidated by gunboat diplomacy. This is where I end my video for today. If you have any comments regarding the views I just expressed, please put them in the comment section. If you're new to this channel, please subscribe. If you have any opinions at all regarding the attempt to force Russia to give NATO, allow security guarantees and NATO kind of security guarantees to Ukraine, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Have a good day until I see you in my next video. Goodbye.